Hey there, you are watching part 2 of how to get started on college applications. If you haven't yet, be sure to start with part 1. And with that, let's get started with part 2. Okay, so next let's talk about where you can actually apply to colleges. And let me just expand this box a little bit more. And yeah, let's get started. So, in summary, there are two main places you can apply to colleges. The first place, as you probably heard of, is the Common Application. The Common Application is great because it includes 900 plus schools and is pretty much your go-to place to apply for colleges and also look up what details are required for each college. The next place you might consider is a Coalition Application that has an aggregate of around 135 schools. There are other ones like the Universal, I can't type and talk at the same time, Universal Application, etc., and others for you to consider. But in general, what I've seen most of my students use, and also what I've recommended them to use, is the Common Application. Because as I'll cover in the third section, in terms of what you actually need to submit to colleges, having one place to submit all your colleges just makes your life so much easier. And because the Common Application has the most options, that's probably where you want to start off with. There are potentially two other places you may find yourself applying to. So one is school-specific applications. So an example is my MIT. So among the 900 schools that Common Application accepts, MIT is actually not one of them. MIT is a little exclusive, where they have a separate application that is their own portal that they've had for a very long time that you actually have to apply through. Currently, the last time I checked, they do not accept any of the other sort of aggregate type of applications. Now, there's another one where you have other smaller aggregators. So an example is University of California. So the University of California, again, that includes UCLA, UC Berkeley, UC Davis. All of those schools, you actually have to apply through the University of California application, and that's in a separate portal on its own that is different from the Common Application, the Coalition, and Universal Application. Also, the reason why I may be biased towards the UCs is because I grew up and am based in California. But do note that in whatever state you are based in, the state schools in your area may also have their separate aggregate application portal type. So that's just something to be aware of. Don't assume that the Common Application takes all the schools, because there are more than 900 schools in the US. And some, like MIT, will have their own portal, and others, like UCs, will be aggregates on their own. Since I'm based in California, most of the students that I coach find themselves using the Common Application and then the UC application. And together, those two pretty much cover almost all of the top schools in the US with a strong range of target and also safety schools. If you are currently a rising senior or are applying very soon to colleges, I highly, highly recommend starting to take a look into these different portals. Pick one of these to start out with. I recommend the Common Application. Create an account there and just start taking a look in terms of what you need to submit. Try adding a few colleges that were on your list and scan through what materials are required for each. I will also note that for every sort of place where you can submit your college application, there are different essay prompts. So I recommend compiling a list of those prompts in a separate Word document or wherever you like to write your essays, and just start brainstorming what ideas you want to write about. I'll cover in the later part of this video how to get started from those brainstorming ideas and turn them into full-on, very strong college essays. Now let's talk about what you have to submit, and I'm just going to copy and paste this just to save me some time in typing all of this out while trying to talk. So let's say through the Common Application or Coalition, there's typically a few pieces that you'll need to submit, and that's through these main aggregators. And I would say for MIT and UCs, this should be pretty standard as well. So usually you need to include something like personal information, whether it's related to your profile, your family, your education, your self-reported test scores. Then you'll have something like the Common Application or Coalition essay. For UCs, do note that there are 4 personal insight questions that are each around 350 words max, whereas something like the Common Application asks you to write a single essay that has a max of 650 words. So just note that you'll be writing maybe 4 or 5 different types of essays at a minimum in that sort of that will be due around that October-November phase. So the earlier you get started, the more you'll be prepared and the higher quality your essays will be. Next, oftentimes in all of these applications, I haven't really seen an exception because this is a key part of the college application, is that you'll have to list and describe your extracurricular activities and honors and awards. I have a separate video showing you how to do this. I'll cover this more later in this video, but if you want, I'll link it up here in the corner as well. And this should actually be number 3. Next, you'll have recommendation letters. Typically, you'll have at least one, if not two. My recommendation here is to find one teacher that is a STEM teacher and another teacher that is a humanities teacher, and have those two write a recommendation letter for you. The reason why I recommend having a sort of diverse set of recommendation letters is to show that you are a well-rounded student, and even if you want to study the humanities or study STEM, showing that you are a strong student across the board in all of those categories. That would be your goal. Next, you'll have college-specific questions. So, for example, Stanford is notorious for having a very long list of very short answer questions, just to know a little bit more about you, like your favorite book, your favorite movie, key memories, etc. Or you'll have other colleges that ask you to write additional supplemental essays. Then you'll have to submit or pay a college application fee, and this is a fee per school that may range anywhere from $20 all the way up to $100. If you are someone who needs financial aid in order to apply for college, there are fee waivers available. I did make an Instagram post detailing how you can look into that, so I'll link it below in the description. But I recommend getting started on those earlier rather than later. Now is probably a little too early, but come around August, start looking into that in order to make sure you're not scrabbling at the end and risk not getting a waiver towards at all. So these are going to be typically what you will include in your main application. Then there are other pieces from other sources that you'll have to gather, collect, or request. And let's walk through them. So through the College Board, which is where you take most of your standardized or your official standardized tests, like the SAT or ACT, you'll have to request the College Board to send your test scores to the school. Now, some schools actually let you self-report the scores and not actually have to send the test scores until you commit to the colleges. So be aware that there may be exceptions here and there, but if you ever need to submit a test score, you would do that directly through the College Board. Another thing to note is, especially with COVID-19, there were many colleges who went test optional for the last college application cycle. And there are some schools who are carrying forward that policy for this next college application cycle as well. As an example, Harvard is one of them. So again, as you build out your college list, be sure to be thoughtful about what the requirements are for each college and make sure that you're prepared for any exceptions. Two last things I want to add. So one is from your high school, you will typically need to request your college counselor or your school administration to send in a mid-year school report. That's after your first semester grades of senior year. And then in the end, or even in the beginning, you might need to request your school to submit a transcript and also a school report. This is something that typically you can request through the Common application, or sometimes if your school uses Naviance, there's integrations there as well. So just be sure to check with your high school's college counselor as well as your school administration to make sure that you are ready and have all the necessary pieces. Especially if you go to a larger school, the earlier you start on this and communicating this, the better it will be, because for sure at some point as college deadlines get closer, your college counselor and school administration will probably be overwhelmed with a lot of last-minute requests to submit different portions for your college application. And the last thing you want to happen is that these pieces that are sort of out of your control are submitted late. So the earlier you get started, the better. Lastly, for anyone who is artistically inclined, you have the option to submit an art supplement if the school does accept them. And if you are planning to submit an art supplement, those are typically submitted through something called Slide Room. You can find links to Slide Room on the website of different colleges that you're looking to apply to and create an account there. It's just a place where you could upload media, resumes, art samples, etc. in order to boost your application. I have separate videos on the art supplement, so I'll link some up here and also in the description below in case if you want to just get started on them. From my own experience, I actually did submit an art supplement. That is because music, particularly playing flute, was my main extracurricular activity in high school. So it was an essential part of my identity and my experience that I thought was meaningful to share with colleges I was applying to. And that's it. It's a lot of what is actually required for you to submit to colleges, but it's better to know earlier rather than later. So you're welcome for compiling this all together. Again, every college may be different in terms of what they require from you, so be sure to, again, be very thoughtful and about checking the requirements of each college on your college list. Now we'll cover when you should start your college application. There's a lot due, but just breathe. It's okay, you'll get through this. So when you should start, it honestly varies person to person. There are a couple of different factors here, which is what are your deadlines in terms of the colleges you're applying for. For instance, what is the deadline of the early school that you want to apply for? Are you applying to UCs? Note their deadlines there. Which schools are you applying regular to? What are their deadlines? And be sure to note them as well. So it depends on that. Whatever your deadline is, you probably want to give yourself at least a 1.5 month buffer to get everything ready at a minimum. And if you really want to be prepared, I recommend something like 2 to 3 months. And again, it varies person to person. It depends on what kind of writer you are. For some people, they like to brainstorm and think a lot, and for others, they just like to crank it out in a week. So it, again, depends person to person. For some people, they may be able to get a stellar application together in a week. That would be very rare, based on my experience. Or if you want a very solid application, for me, my own experience took probably 2 to 3 months, and that's the same for my students as well. These months are months assuming that you have no school going on. But if you add on the fact that you have school starting probably in around August or September, you might want to give yourself more buffer time because you will have your extracurriculars and your coursework to worry about on top of your college application. So as an example, if you're applying early with a deadline of November 1st, I recommend starting your essays by August at the very latest. And keep in mind that when you start your college applications, you'll also be starting school. So that's why it's not a bad idea to knock out your extracurricular descriptions and at least start brainstorming your college essays sometime in June or July, especially if you are applying to an early school. Lastly, how to get started. There's a lot, and I want to be sure that you are comfortable and confident in knowing exactly how to get started on preparing all of those college application materials. And that's why the college YouTube channel exists. So what I've actually done is I put together a guide for you. It's linked in the description. It will have everything from how to write your college essays in 3 steps, to how to write the common app activity descriptions, to preparing the art supplement, and more. So be sure to check that out, and I'm always trying to work to put out more videos to answer other questions you might have or address different nuances in the college application itself. So feel free to leave any questions in the comments below or send me a message on my website or Instagram, and I'll try to get back to you as soon as I can. Good luck on the college application process, and again, feel free to reach out to me at mycollegelead.com. If you found this video helpful, please give it a thumbs up and also subscribe for more content like this. I will see you in my next video.